Is bracing for a potentially permanent halt to the flow of Russian gas after maintenance work began on the Nord Stream1 pipeline earlier this week. Although the routine repairs occur every year, some officials have accused the Kremlin of using gas as a weapon in response to EU sanctions. Deutsche Welle correspondent Thomas Sparrow joins us now from Berlin. Thomas, can you just give us some more detail on this latest decision by Russia and also Germany's reaction?
This latest decision officially is due to maintenance repairs that happen on a regular basis, but the German government, German authorities in particular, are fearing that that halt could be permanent. In other words, that Russia, after the 10-day maintenance period, would not restart distributing gas to Germany and to Europe through the very important Nord Stream 1 pipeline. This Nord Stream 1 pipeline, just to give you a bit of context, is one of the most important pipelines precisely bringing gas from Russia to Germany and then to many other European countries. And that's why there is concern here as to what a possible permanent halt would mean. This is being described here as Germany preparing itself for the worst, so hoping for the best, but preparing itself for the worst. And those preparations include making sure who would be prioritized in case of a permanent halt, asking consumers and industries to reduce using energy as much as possible, also making sure that storage capabilities can be increased through different ways, including using alternative energy sources or even going to other countries for supplies as well. So all in all, a very serious issue here indeed, and Germans are waiting very carefully to see what will happen after this 10-day maintenance period. Russia rejects that it is using this as a political or economic weapon, but as far as the German government is concerned, they see this as certainly a way in which Russia is trying to exert political and economic leverage. They are describing it as an economic weapon that's being used or leveled against Germany.
Just how dependent are European countries, and in particular Germany, on Russian energy?
I'll give you a statistic that clearly explains that. Before the war in Ukraine started, Germany imported around 55% of its gas from Russia. That is a very high amount. Now, Germany is not the only country in Europe that is dependent on Russian energy, but this 55% is clearly a matter of concern. Now, Germany in the last few months has indeed reduced that dependency on Russian gas to around 35% by, as I mentioned, looking to other sources of supply, by trying to use also renewable energies, by asking consumers to reduce their consumption of, in particular, gas. But it is still an issue of concern precisely because of the possibility that it could be used by Russia as a political weapon, as leverage when it comes to their own positions in this whole conflict. So the German government is certainly very concerned about the current situation. It is working hand in hand with European institutions, with other partner countries to try and guarantee that in the end, not only in the immediate term now, also in the coming winter, but in the long term, that Germany can guarantee supply and that shortages will not be permanent.
And what's been the reaction to these latest developments?
Essentially also concern from German consumers. Now, there have been recent polls where people here in Germany have been asked to basically decide what their economic situation is, or at least describe it. Many still describe their economic situation as being good. However, they think that in the next year, in the next coming months, that economic situation will worsen. And it's important to stress that here in Germany, the economy is paramount to understanding how Germany's political and economic system works. In other words, Germany's economy is the base of Germans' well-being. And when that starts to become difficult, when there are problems here in Germany, there are concerns not only among politicians but also among consumers. If you hear what German authorities are saying, they're saying that these prices that are very high, inflation that is very high, is a very serious matter that could create even social unrest, that could widen the gap between rich and poor in the country. And that's why essentially a lot of measures are now being discussed and decided on to make sure that Germans can be helped in the short term, for example, by giving them certain money to pay those high energy costs, but also in the medium and long term when it comes to making sure that they don't suffer economically because of these current situations.
Thomas Sparrow reporting there. Well, Origin Pride goes on the line